Today on the channel, as promised, as part of 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're doing the Mailbag Q&A. Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for an extra special episode today. As part of the 10,000 subscriber special videos today, we're doing a Mailbag Q&A video. I promised you guys, I'm a man that keeps my word. I promised when we got to 10,000 we do the Warlord unboxing with my dad. We have that one out there. We do the top 10 Ultimate Warrior countdown. We got that one on there. We do giveaways, so depending when you're watching this video, go back. Last week's weekly purchases, all kinds of giveaways, 3 giveaways. So make sure you follow the rules and get a part of those giveaways. I want to give back to you guys for watching the channel out there. And then the other one was the Q&A mailbag. We've never really done one of these. We did one way back early on, but this is a new one. A lot of new faces, a lot of new subscribers, all that kind of fun stuff out there. So as part of the big 10,000 subscribers said we do this Q&A mailbag. So let's jump into it. Want to thank all you guys that have subscribed, that you guys like, that follow me on social media at SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson, of course, and then follow me on here on YouTube. Thanks for all you guys, for everything you guys do, watching the videos and stuff, leaving comments. It means a lot. It truly does. So thank you guys, and thank you for all the questions here. I'm going to answer. Nothing's off limits, so I'm going to go through. We're just going to run through them, and I'm going to give the answer the best that comes to my mind right now. So let's dig in. Let's go for it. Let's start it off. The old Q&A. Here we go. Number 1, we got Sambro, one of the best supporters of the channel. He's been around since basically the beginning, watches a lot of videos, talk all the time, became friends with him via these videos in this channel. So Sambro, always looking out, always a good brother out there, always appreciate you watching on the videos for sure. So he gets question number 1, and number 1, we're coming down hot right off the bat, starting in hot with the hot questions. What's Angie think of the long hair? Ooh. So my wife, Angie, of course. So I have a great wife. As you guys know, she puts up with me, puts up with this mania. She's been in some of the videos out there. And actually, it's funny. I tried to start growing my hair. Here's a funny story. There's always a story somewhere. Back in 2010 when my daughter was born, when we found out my wife Angie was pregnant, we were having a kid, one of the first things, I don't know if it was the first, but pretty close, I said, you know what? I want to look absolutely crazy in the pictures when she was born. Like when you get the picture, you know, mom holding it, I want to look like a whole different person. Just like you could look back, you know, 30 years later at the newborn pics and say, who is that crazy guy? So I've always had a very short haircut my whole entire life. My dad always, you know, he always says to this day, how are you employed with this haircut? How do they keep you employed? He's not a big fan of the long hair. But back in the day, and still till COVID years, I've always had short hair. But 2010, when my daughter was being born, I said, okay, I'm not going to shave, I'm not going to cut my hair. So my hair got down to, let's say, a little past my ears, and my beard got awfully bushy, as you can imagine. So I looked like a crazy mountain man in those pictures, and my wife absolutely hated it. She absolutely hated it, thought I looked extremely terrible. And looking back in the pictures, I did, but it's kind of a funny joke for me. I'm all about the jokes at the end of the day. So she didn't like the long hair then. So then I started growing it out. You know, COVID hit. We couldn't go to our offices. We had to work from home. Couldn't travel. I said, you know what? I've always wanted to have long hair once in my life. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to have long hair. Never got to do it because of work, basically. I've been working since I was 14 years old. Couldn't have facial hair for most of those years of work and employment in the companies I worked for. Lots changed. You couldn't have facial hair. You couldn't have tattoos. I don't have any sleeves. I wish I had sleeves, but I couldn't get tattoo sleeves. You couldn't do any of that kind of stuff. I mean, things are a lot looser than they used to be even 10 years ago, and hair was another thing. But I figured now was my chance to grow long hair, and that's exactly what I did. And she was not a fan at the start, but now it's growing on her, and she says, I don't know what happened between those 10, 11 years when you did it the first time. It looks a lot better now. So, long story short, she does like the hair somewhat. I think she might like it short again, and I'm thinking one of these days we'll go short again as well. You know, I don't know. I'm not going to go any longer than this, I don't think, but we'll see. One day I might shock you guys. I'll have a video and I'll just have short hair again, so we'll see what happens there. Then the next question from Morgs Carmen, what's Angie think of your collection? So I don't think she sits there. I'd like to believe she says, oh my gosh, this is the greatest guy in the world. He has this amazing wrestling figure collection, superhero collection. There's just the greatest guy in the world. I don't know if she quite goes that far and just is like fall down over impressed. And I think it goes a lot back to, it always reminds me of when Arnold Schwarzenegger did an interview way back in the day, and he said something to the effect of, they were interviewing his kids, and his kids were with him, and what's it like having Arnold Schwarzenegger as a dad? And they had no idea. It's just like, no, he's just dad. And that's kind of how it is with my wife. I've been a collector since I've known her. Obviously, the collection grows every single day, so it gets bigger and bigger. But she's been around this. She's grown with this. So she doesn't really have, she's not like this is the coolest thing in the world, and she doesn't hate it. She's just somewhere in the middle. It is something I've done my whole life. She's been around it since the beginning. So it's not like I just started collecting 5 years into our marriage. This was here from day one. I was collecting something. So she knew what she was signing up for. So she's fine with it. I wouldn't say she dislikes it. I wouldn't say she's over the moon with it. She's somewhere in the upper middle where she helps me out. She'll look for stuff. She gets it. So it's pretty good. I'd say it's pretty good. So there you go. Sambro coming back in again with what is the perfect pizza? And it's funny he says that, as some of you guys may or may not know. In the state of Iowa, I am known as the Iowa Pizza King in some circles. I've been on radio shows. I've been on podcasts. I've been on the news before about my pizza quest and stuff. When I used to really travel really heavy, every night I'd eat a different pizza. I want to try all these pizzas in the whole Midwest, and I've tried hundreds and hundreds of pizza restaurants. So I really do feel like I know my pizza a little bit. We could do a whole episode about pizza one day. But perfect pizza for me, I always start with sausage pepperoni as the control. Whenever I try a new pizza restaurant, I try sausage pepperoni, or at least pepperoni, and that's the control. That's the way I know if this place is any good. That's kind of my rough litmus test that I like to do, and then I go from there. But the perfect pizza for me is one that is so strange, but it just hits big time. If you're ever in the Des Moines area, Des Moines, Iowa, go to Big Tomato Pizza, order the barbecue beef Alfredo. Yes, it sounds terrible. I'm not even a big Alfredo sauce fan. It's very light, but for some reason, that combination is the most magical pizza, and it's not like shredded barbecue beef. It is like clumps, almost like sausage barbecue beef. I don't know. You have to try it. It's just crazy. But usually it's sausage and pepperoni is where I like to go. I'm just a little bit of a minimalist there, but that's what I like to do for my perfect pizza. So there you go. Then we got Hobbs172 coming in hot. He's been a long-time viewer on the channel as well. What is your favorite band t-shirt? And love your collection. Well, I appreciate it. And I love band t-shirts. And when I would go get pizza at all these restaurants in my traveling days, most nights I was going to a heavy metal show, or at least a hard rock heavy metal show. Every night, basically. I mean, I would see 400 bands a year. Obviously, sometimes you see 2 bands a night and stuff. I'd see over 400 bands a year prior to COVID. I just went to a lot of heavy metal shows. My favorite heavy metal shows are some of those small venue heavy metal shows. You know, those big arena shows, they are what they are. But I like the younger bands, the up-and-coming bands, some of the underground bands, I guess you'd call them. I went to a lot of those shows, and I would always pick up a t-shirt. Support those local bands, buy a t-shirt. That usually is the best way to support them a lot of times. But what is my favorite band t-shirt? It's got to be probably the classic Motorhead, much similar to this, but the black with the white, with the War Pig logo going on there. That's probably it. It's pretty simple, but it means a lot to me. I wear Motorhead. People will say something to me. You know, I've got over 100 Motorhead t-shirts, so I get a lot of people come, oh, I love Motorhead, and then I really grill them. Okay, outside of Ace of Spades, what's your favorite song? But, you know, it's a way of life, the Motorhead way of life, I guess. I don't know, that's another video for another day, too. But Motorhead, classic Motorhead tee, I think it doesn't get better than that as far as heavy metal t-shirts and stuff like that. Sambro again, what's your least favorite type of video to film, and what's your favorite? So, easy for me, the videos I hate to film are when the item is big. Obviously, I got my camera set up here. I don't like to move my camera setup because then you got to refigure everything. So I just like to put my camera up and go. That makes it simple. But when you get something big, like I'm very excited for these upcoming Sentinels. That's been really played out on my channel where we talked about it. I'm very excited for these Sentinels to come, But I'm not excited about filming the video a little bit because it's hard to film. You got to move the camera, you got to get the angles differently, and I'm by no means a photographer or anything like that. I get this space, and that's what I like, but that Sentinel, he's going to be up here, out of frame, he's going to be wide. I mean, if you guys go back, I did an Ultimate Warrior statue. Love that Ultimate Warrior statue, but I had to switch my cameras around because it was so big, and that's the kind of stuff I don't like. That gets me out of my comfort zone, if that counts, I guess. And my favorite things to film, I like really everything. I guess I'm a natural ham or whatever. I do speak a lot in my day job, so I'm fine with speaking. So I can speak about almost anything out there, but I really do. They are the worst performing videos on the channel, and I get that. Not everybody loves Star Wars, especially a daily Star Wars. But those ones are so fun because I don't take them seriously at all. We talk about the figures and stuff, but about everything goes into a whole different conversation. It goes into a whole different subject. I mean, those are the crazy zany videos out there, and really some sleeper videos out there I think that people have missed because they're not interested, that weren't really about that. They were just about everyday life or a crazy story or something along those. So I do have a lot of fun doing those Star Wars videos every single day. I also, of course, enjoy a lot of wrestling videos. Wrestling is always fun to do, and it seems like that's what most of the audience likes as well. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't love it when a new wrestling figure set comes in. Just the fun of it, the excitement of it all. So those are probably some of my favorite ones. Sambro coming in hot here. How do you balance your life so well? You seem to have a great relationship with your family, your work, you work like crazy, and your collecting must consume a large portion as well. And thank you for putting that out. I try to be the best dad I can be every single day. I don't know. You guys all probably understand how that goes. It's tough to balance my life. I'm constantly thinking. My brain is constantly working, and not just about this and collecting and stuff, but my day job. It never shuts off. And I've said it before on the channel. I can count. I think I've had, since I graduated college in 2004, I think I've had one full week of vacation. 5 days in a row off. I just don't have time off. A lot of the time is there's really nobody to, there's so much work to do, you can't take time off. And that's just, you know, I don't want to say I'm not like a CEO or I'm not something, but I think when you get to certain levels in your career, that's the way it goes. And you just kind of have to put your nose to the grindstone. You got to get after it, and you don't want to be passed behind, so you got to be on top of your work, and that's what you get. And you know, some people say, oh, you got a big, you know, not that I'm a CEO, I'm not saying I'm a CEO, but the common perception I think of a lot of CEOs are, oh, they make a fortune out there, and oh, they don't have to do a lot. No, most CEOs, you know what, they're spending 80, 90, 100 hours a week. They're living and breathing their job. Yes, they get paid well. They probably don't have a lot of time to spend it, but they're the first ones shown the door. So the higher you get is great, but you're also got a bullseye on your back, and that goes for any corporation out there. You know, you're paid more, you got insurance, you got more PTO days usually. Those are the people they look to get rid of. So that's another life tip out there. But I try to balance it all, and it is definitely tough. I do stay up a little later than I used to, especially with some of this YouTube stuff, you know, covering, I'm opening up the curtain or whatever you want to call it. I film the majority of my videos on Sunday. I get up extremely early on Sunday mornings, and I crank them out for like 9-10 hours straight, or whatever it is. But I work basically all day Sunday on my videos. Sunday night, I will sit there and edit them all until it's done. So it might be 5 a.m. till midnight on Sundays just to knock out all the content, except for weekly purchases, which I film on Fridays after work is done. I try to knock that out before dinner, and then we go out to dinner with my family and everything. And so that's, the YouTube channel takes a long time. Basically one day of my life is basically how I kind of look at it. And then, you know, my regular job is very intense and just never ends. So then I have a lot of that working around, but Sunday seems to be the slowest day, so it does work out on that. But the rest of the time, it's constant work. And then, you know, the kids are at school, so I always try to get as much done as I can then. And then they go to bed, you know, 8:30, 9 o'clock. You try to hammer it out at night. 9 o'clock, you'll pick up some extra work. You'll pick up anything else you got to do. You just got to try to be available. You know, the old saying is they're only small for so long and all that kind of stuff. So you got to, you know, be around them, and you want to be around them. That makes sense, and I think a lot of you guys understand how that goes as well. And then my wife, she floats in and out between all of that kind of stuff, and luckily she stays home pretty much during the day and nights and stuff. She gets the kids to and from school, which is a huge relief because, like I said, I'm traveling, I'm working, I'm in meetings, I'm on conference calls, whatever. it's great to have her around to really take care of the kids, making sure their lunch is packed, making sure they're going to and from school and any activities and friend's house. Unsung hero there, and I'm sure some of you guys have that same thing going on. But it is definitely a balance. It definitely is a grind. You just try to hammer it out as much as you can for as long as you can. And, it's been 26 years I've been working. It's just insane at this point. But yeah, there you go. There you go. Quick answer. My old buddy Dougie, he lives around me, and we help each other out with some stuff every once in a while. What are the top 5 items in your entire collection? Sentimental value or eBay value, whatever you prefer. All lines included. So that's a tough one. And it changes a lot. But obviously that black card LJN Ultimate Warrior, it's just special for so many reasons for me. I absolutely do love that figure. Warriors, Hall of Champions Warrior, that is such an awesome warrior for Mattel. Love that one. And then, of course, the Final Night Warrior, I guess we'll call it. That's a huge one I love. I love the Terry Funk Classic Superstars Bloody figure. I love all the Terry Funk Classic Superstars. The Classic Superstars line is obviously near and dear to my heart. It's just tough to say the top 5 because it does change all the time. Rancor figures, which seems weird for Star Wars. I loved those as a kid, so that was a huge one for me. I don't know if I could ever pinpoint just 5, but I definitely that Ultimate Warrior LJN, that Terry Funk Classic Superstar up at the top of my list. Yeah, I think we'll just go with that, but it changes a lot. But Class Superstars line would have to be near and dear to my heart. It's probably my favorite line of all time. As you guys are fully aware, we do a video every Tuesday on it, so there you go. Moving on to the next page here. Jebby Sands. How did you get into this gear of figure collecting? And that's a good terminology, this gear. It's like I stepped it up another gear. And I've been going hard for a long time. And I talked about it on the channel a little bit. I started, dabbling in, I had G.I. Joe Figure Subscription Club. I've been collecting since I was a kid, but definitely the last couple of years it has intensified. But if you follow that, there's a lot more toy lines out there. Now we got AEW Jazzwares figures. Mattel has expanded on stuff. Marvel Legends is putting out something new about every single day. So that, there was a lot that were a little slower paced, but we've seen with COVID, so many new collectors, so many people buying collectibles now. So many new companies, so many new lines jumping back into it. That has really snowballed, and I've snowballed with it. Yes, I love G.I. Joe. Now you got a new G.I. Joe line. Of course I'm going to collect that. You got Jazzwares. Of course I'm going to collect that. We've got tons of new Boss Fight, Super 7. All these new lines of things I'm interested in. I'm jumping in on that. Where you go back to 2000 to 2010, basically, there was the G.I. Joe Figure Subscription Club. I was a big part of that. And then Classic Superstars. That was basically all I was collecting. And there wasn't tons of lines out there. And now it's just intensified like crazy these last few years. So that's kind of how it snowballed into this gear, I feel. It's an interesting time to be a collector. And then one thing that does help, of course, is, you're younger, you can only collect so much. Going back to when you're a kid, there's a few lines out there I never got to collect because when you're a kid, you're only going to get so many toys. We all know that. There's no unlimited amount of toys. And there was stuff I had to pass on because I was all in on G.I. Joe. I was all in on wrestling. And now when you're older and you got your own money and you don't got your dad's money or whatever, and you start doing better as the older you get, hopefully you're moving up the pay scale ladder, things like that. So now the opportunities to collect more stuff comes along. So really this gear of collecting, I would say, is the last 3 years with just the boom of all the properties I love. Super 7 alone, taking so many properties from the 80s that I loved, bringing them to modern age. That's a whole nother gear of collecting, and that's how I got into that. Rough story, I guess, there. So there you go. Here's a good one. C. Jason82. Do you ever get overwhelmed by the sheer size of your collection? Yes and no. Last night I was extremely overwhelmed. I had about 3 hours of time. I didn't have anything going on. I was in my collection room, my Star Wars room, and I said, okay, it's time to get after this. And this is the first time I've ever felt really overwhelmed. As you guys see, I do these Star Wars videos every day. Well, I've just been lining them up, putting them in areas and stuff. Well, now it's time to start building those displays out. And I was a bit overwhelmed last time. Just looking, I'm like, this is so many hours of work I have here, and I don't have those hours. Luckily, as we're filming this, I do have a couple of days off this week. I have 2 days I'm going to try to get in. I have like 14 PTO days to use the rest of the year. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think I'm going to get these 2 days off at the end of this week. Hasbro Pulse Con's going on Friday, so I want to be able to watch that. I'm going to try to get some stuff done, but I'm going to try to put it into a second gear when the kids are at school. I'm going to try to hammer out some of this stuff because I want to do a figure collection tour at the end of February like I do every single year. I got a lot of work doing that Star Wars room, so it is a little bit overwhelming. That is overwhelming for sure. The Gunner 74. The Gunner 74, what is your favorite figure you own? Goes back to that LJN Warrior. It's probably my favorite. Gun to my head, that's probably it. Rob K. Will, what is your most expensive and favorite? Mattel Elite, Class Superstars, Legends, Motu, G.I. Joe, or your top 5 favorites? So I answered the top 5 favorite. Most expensive figure, I think, is that King Grayskull 1 of 31. It's a 1 of only 31. They were given to Mattel employees, and I do have one of those. That probably is the most expensive figure I own. So yeah, there you go. I'm not sure the value on it. One hasn't shown up for sale for many, many a moon. But I'm sure it would be good. It would be a good payday. Sambro Figs, what is your opinion on future values of wrestling figures? Do you feel AEW figures will be extremely valuable once the current viewer gets to collecting age? So it's interesting. We've talked a lot, and Sambro knows some of this too. We've talked a lot about values and perceived values and new collectors getting into the game in the COVID years. People were stuck at home. They weren't going on vacation. They said, what made me happy in the past? I really like these toys. I'm going to start buying those. So we've seen, I think we've seen about the peak of values, at least for a while. I think things are starting to come down a little bit right now. I see a lot more people selling their collections and stuff like that. AEW specifically, as I know Sambro's a huge AEW guy out there, and I do like the AEWs. You guys know my issues with some of the elbow joints and a few things. And Series 7, oof, a little rough, Series 7. But do I feel the AEW figures will be extremely valuable? I don't know. I don't know. I think Series 1 of anything is usually pretty valuable. There'll be some interesting ones. Like, it'd be funny is like 10 years from now, Rio might be a pricey one because so many people passed on it and they're going to get given away or they're going to get destroyed or they're going to be given to, you know, big lots and some kids will get them as a terrible present and they don't know who it is. Value is always tough, but the first series of chases especially should hold their value and keep growing. But think back to Jack's Ruthless Aggression days. I know a lot of you guys probably didn't collect real hardcore back then. I just could only pick and choose. Some of that stuff, it seems like most figures out there, right when they come out, they're worth a lot. Then they're at retail for, let's say, 6 months off and on. And then there's the spot where you can't get them. They're not worth a ton. And then they start climbing. So it always takes a while. There'll definitely be some AEW figures that are worth some money. But I think as we've seen with so many people getting out of the collecting, so much product coming by, it's going to hurt. Until the Cody Rhodes of the world, until he retires and he doesn't get figures on a fairly regular basis anymore, that's when you'll start seeing some of his stuff rise, I think. But, you know, you just never know where it's going to go in collecting. I try not to collect for value, but I know a lot of people do. But it's always interesting. I always try to keep my fingers on the pulse of how it'll go. But I guess long story short, some will be collectible, some won't. Some will be hot garbage. It's just kind of the way it goes with collecting, and sometimes you never know what's going to get. My dad always talks about some of the old baseball Gartland USA figures he collected in like the early 60s, and you know the Mickey Mantles, Babe Ruths, they're worth something, but not as much as the Dick Groat Pittsburgh Pirate figure. Nobody wanted Dick Groat. He wasn't in the terms of Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth. He's the one that's worth the most. So sometimes you got to think about those Rios of the world. Those are the sleeper ones to invest in. Not today, Jackass. If you had the ability to book your own dream AEW Unrivaled Series 10, what 6 figs would it be? Oh boy, I don't even know. I'd like a really good FTR for sure. They're probably my favorite tag team going, so I'd love to see them. I'd love to see Marco Stunt. I guess we just need him for that Jungle Express. I don't know if he might be in 8 or 9, who knows, but I'm just going to throw him in knowing what I know now. So Marco Stunt, FTR. Give me another Sting. You know, Sting's on TV every single week. I'd love a classic Sting, obviously. Give me a Surfer Sting as a throwback or something. I don't know if the Luminaries really isn't in Unrivaled, but a Sting of some sorts would be good. You guys know I'm a sucker for face paint. Another Luchasaurus would be good. I know he doesn't have a ton of different looks out there, but give me a big figure. Give me a big old Luchasaurus figure. And then, you know, of course, CM Punk's a favorite of mine. I'd love to see Daniel Bryan, of course. I mean, a lot of the guys, and I do think we'll get pretty much everybody eventually. I would love to see, you know, it sounds like the Luminaries are going to be one per every other set in the Unmatched line. I'd like to see one per set. I'd like to see some of the Tony Schiavone's out there, Jim Ross's, and it sounds like they're coming. Jeremy hints to it. I really think that the AW line, if you look at the Jacks, we're all destined to repeat history if we don't understand it. And Jacks gave us everybody, and they gave us so many different lines. They're following that same exact playbook, and we're going to get everybody. It just takes some time. They still got a heck of a lot of bugs to figure out, but they're getting after it. But I really want FTR, especially as disappointed as I was with Series 7. I want a good FTR. Tully Blanchard. Give me FTR, Tully Blanchard, Marco Stunt, Luchasaurus, a good Sting, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, one of those two. And who else would I like to see? Colt Cabana. Give me Colt Cabana as well. And I think we'll get all those guys eventually. But the future's pretty bright for that line, I think. Creeper Wrestling, without face paint, masks, or big wrestlers, who then would you say your favorite wrestler would be? Easy for me, and I love all that stuff. Of course, face paint, big wrestlers, masks, I love all that stuff, but it is a little tongue-in-cheek, because I do love guys that don't have it. Specifically, growing up, Ric Flair and Terry Funk were huge to me. I was 9 years old during that I Quit match. That really changed my perception of wrestling forever. I think pre-'89, I was all about that face paint. I was always about those big jacked-up dudes. And there were some guys I liked, too, but I didn't understand why. But it's like Ric Flair and Terry Funk put all the pieces together, setting up the promo, the interviews, building the story, going to the I Quit match, and then the whole saga and angles of all that was really something for a 9-year-old Kyle that obviously I'd never seen before. And really, I really do thank that match for making me a lifetime wrestling fan at that point. Ultimate Warrior Hogan, a lot of people loved that, remember back to that. People remember Hogan and Andre, but a lot of those people jumped out of wrestling and never, you know, got back into it. That was their wrestling memory. But to me, that Flair Funk was such a big deal for me. I mean, I've told the story before, running home from the pizza place because I couldn't wait to watch it. I wasn't going to sit there. I ran like a mile home. I said, Dad, I gotta go. I can't miss this. And that made me a lifelong fan. I've never stopped watching wrestling since. So easily Terry Funk, Ric Flair, two of my all-time favorites. Jamie Crame4Empton. Awesome work as always. The god of figure collecting. I don't know if I go that far. All of your catchphrases are comedy gold, but which one is your personal favorite? Oh man, I don't know. I have a lot of weird catchphrases, and they've always evolved over the years, and I've used them at my work life and stuff. And I always just try to find the humor in everything, try to keep everything as lighthearted as possible. When you're in intense meetings and stuff like that, and millions of dollars are on the line, somebody's got to be there to crack a joke, and I like to think I'm that guy to lighten the mood, lighten the room out there. But probably the "See You Later" it was the one most people know me for, I guess, if I'm known for anything as far as catchphrases. And I've done that as long as I can remember, and it wasn't something that was for the YouTube show. It's just something I naturally do. I open something up, see you later, throw it away, throw it off to the side, and pick it up later. And it's funny how many people message me, I'd like to see the camera flipped around. I want to see all those boxes that are just swimming. It's like, do you think I just leave them there? I pick them up after every time. I think my wife would kill me if I didn't, so I got to pick them up. But "See You Later" is probably the best one of all time. That's probably the one I would have to think. Then we got Mr. Tang's World 74. How did you become so awesome? Oh, I don't know. I was just born that way, I guess. Thank my dad. And you saw my dad in the Warlord video. My dad is going to be back again. First week in November, we're going to count down the top 5 favorite Warlord figures as voted by me. And he's at the end. He's going to put his list in there as well. So he'll be on there. But I guess if I have any awesomeness, I'll just give it all the credit to my dad. He taught me how to be awesome. Sambro Figs, what do you think of the idea to replace Mattel WWE Basics with 3 3/4 wrestling figs? So that's an interesting one. But I feel like the 3 3/4 figures, the ship has sailed. I was a kid that grew up on 3. If you take wrestling out of the mix, I mean, G.I. Joe was the thing. Star Wars was the thing. You take them out of the mix, you take the LJN and some of that stuff out, that was the scale of like the 80s and 90s for most of the time. Now it seems like everything has moved to a 6-inch scale, and that makes sense. Everybody likes that. I don't think a 3 3/4 line would go over very well at all, unfortunately. I don't think it would sell a whole lot. Right now, the Marvel Retro line, Marvel Legend Retros are out there. I don't see those moving off the pegs at a pretty good clip. So I just don't know if there's enough nostalgia for those. I feel like a lot of collectors have moved on to the 6-inch scale and different scale sizes. And you can't get the detail in the 3 3/4. The vintage collection figures do go strong for Star Wars. I think that is the best ones that go. Even those can be peg warmers at times. But I think a lot of that is about the nostalgia, the packaging, and I think most of those collectors do keep them on the cards. But we all saw Jax try to do the Build and Brawl line 3 3/4 before they lost the license. It wasn't that big successful of a line. It didn't really go that hot. So I just think the ship has sailed. It's unfortunate because I think there could be a place for it, but kids coming up, they don't know anything different than bigger figures, and I think small figures, it's just it was a moment in time that's seemingly gone forever is kind of how I view it. Not today, Jackass. Again, if you had the ability to book your own dream WWE Elite Series 100, what 6 figs would it be? That's another tough one. So we know Basics 100, they went with a pretty strong lineup of some of the heavy hitters. And my gut tells me they're going to go for for Elite 100. It's going to be a set that is going to be... it's going to celebrate the 100 series. So I think it's going to be a lot of guys we saw many of. I think you're going to see John Cena in there. You'll see the Randy Ortons of the world in there. In a lot of guys, depending on if they're in contract, Legends contract, stuff like that. But I could see Hulk Hogan being in there. I just got to think it's going to be the tippy top guys that have been around the whole Mattel years, if that makes sense. So some of those guys have got a lot of figures. The Ortons, the Cenas, maybe even a little bit of Batista in there. I think we'll get some of that. I think we'll get some special packaging. That's how I envision it to be. But if I had to pick my 6, I mean, I'm probably going to go my Mount Rushmore. I'm going to throw the LOD on there. I mean, this is just, they're not even signed, so this is just me pulling off the top of my head who I'd love to see in the 6-person line. I'd love to see the LOD. I'd love to see the Ultimate Warrior. I'd love to see Terry Funk. I'd love to see Ric Flair. And then that last spot, maybe a Hulk Hogan. I think it just makes sense. And I'm not the hugest Hulk Hogan guy in the world, as you guys all know. But it makes sense. I don't know if anybody brought wrestling to the popularity it is today. You can make the same argument for Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock. Going back to that original, I got to think The Rock will be in that set for sure. So it'll be interesting which way they go. I mean, that's tough when you only pick 6 people, be it your top 6 or the 6 that make the most sense in the elite years. It's going to be tough. And, guys like Daniel Bryan obviously aren't going to be made now, so he's off the list. But you got to think Cena, you got to think Rock, you got to think Austin will be in there. Probably Randy Orton. It'll be really interesting. I'm excited to find out when they do announce those, and I think we should see, hopefully, that announcement. I got to think San Diego Comic-Con or back March, maybe Mania. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't get that announcement come Mania time. Next question from Morgs Carmen. Where you get all your wrestling t-shirts from? And I guess, live shows over the years, catalogs, Pro Wrestling Tees lately, that seems to be the place to go for. It's basically WWE Shop or Pro Wrestling Tees, AEW Tees, kind of affiliated there. That's basically the spots to go. I mean, that's where you're going to get them from. So there you go. Frank GI3, can I still find a Wonder Woman 1984 for sale at retail? What are your favorite online stores? I have no idea. I'm trying to think. If I even can imagine, I'm guessing McFarlane Toys, Wonder Woman 84, and I think that was the one that was back in the Target, into the electronics NECA sections. I haven't seen that figure for a long time, but I'm not really up on my Wonder Woman toys. But my favorite online toy store, of course, Big Bad Toy Store. Link in the description below. Big Bad Toy Store is a good supporter of the channel out there, and I appreciate them a heck of a lot, taking a chance on a young up-and-comer like myself. So that's who I pretty much order from. Ringside Collectibles, of course, use discount code Kyle, save 10%. A lot of people do think that, Ringside sends me all these figures for free. It's not the case. I pay for every single figure I get. It's just a code to help you guys out. It's a code out there that gets used. Maybe one day they'd want to do something, or that's kind of the way those things go. So I know some people think, oh, Kyle gets all these figures for free. No, I don't. I pay for everything with my own money. That's why you see me out figure hunting every single week. Got to get a deal out there. I'm figure hunting. I'm no different than you guys out there. Maybe I just have a YouTube channel, and a lot of you guys do as well. So there you go. Darren L. Toys. Hi, Kyle. Really enjoy your channel. Thank you very much. What is your favorite line to collect and why? Favorite line to collect and why? I really do like this G.I. Joe Classified line. You guys, I've talked about before, that's my first passion was G.I. Joe. A lot of people think wrestling, but G.I. Joe Classified's fun. There's been a lot of frustrations with it. I know some people have frustrations about not being able to find the figures and stuff. My biggest frustration is the lack of figures. It seems to be a very slow trickle out, but it's not bad for our wallets on that other end of it, so I don't mind that either. Now that Super 7's jumping in the G.I. Joe game, it's going to be real interesting when those come. I've got those pre-ordered. I cannot wait for those. So those are going to be pretty cool. I'm hoping they live up to my expectations. We'll see. But I love collecting the G.I. Joe line, G.I. Joe anything, going back to childhood. Wrestling is extremely fun. It's really fun now that, you guys know I have a complete Mattel Elite collection. So it's fun every time a new set comes and building upon that collection. So I do enjoy that a lot. Also, his other question here, also, what would be your dream WWE Mattel Creations crowdfund project? Thanks and congrats on 10K. Thank you again for sending a question in. Now this one, I think I might have mentioned this in one of those deep dive. We did 2 ring deep dive videos that brought up a lot of questions, concerns, and, a little bit of everything for those. But you know what I want to see? And everybody wants to see something different. We all have to put that business hat on, take that big step back with the business hat. What's going to be completed? What do the majority of people want? But selfishly, if I could pick any Mattel Creations thing, without question for me, it is the Night of the Skywalkers. I want scaffold matches. I know wrestlers hate scaffold matches. Apparently most fans hated the scaffold matches, but little Kyle at 6, 7 years old renting the Night of the Skywalkers at his local video store, unbelievable. I was used to wrestling in rings, sometimes a steel cage match, but to see the cover of the Road Warriors and Midnight Express up on this huge scaffolding over a ring, Jim Cornette getting thrown in there, was just shocking. One of the most shocking things. I remember going to school and telling everybody, you guys are not going to believe this match. Unbelievable. So I would love to see a ring with a scaffold over it. I'm sure it's something you can make on your own, but I would love an official one. Throw the Midnight Express, throw the Road Warriors in as stretch goals. Oh man, take all my money. I'll probably buy 5 of those. I would want that to succeed so bad, but it's probably not going to happen. But I think Mattel Creations, the ring was a tough sell. We all rallied together to will this thing into existence. I think a lot of people did it to flip it mainly, which I think people will be a little disappointed come that time. That's going to be a long, long game flip, if you ask me. But I think a lot of us joined together in hopes of something in the future. And I think I'd love to see back to 4-packs. I'd like to see box sets of wrestlers. Give us a 4 Horsemen pack again. Give us a different 4 Horsemen. Give us a traditional tag team feud, 2 teams, 2 teams. Give us something special, and it doesn't have to be $300. Let's make it $100. Let's make it $80. I think there's a lot they can do, and I think we're seeing that with Mattel Creations. If you go to the Masters of the Universe Origins side of things, they did do a Triclops. It took me a second to think of the name. Triclops. Only $18, $19, whatever it was. I think there's room in the Mattel headspace to do that with some wrestling figures. Maybe that's where we got the Zodiac coming. Maybe we get the Disciple through Mattel Creations, and it's pre-order. You get up there and get it. Maybe they can use that kind of funding. So we'll see where that ends up going. More questions here. We're already answered some of these. Okay, Mario. Now we're into the Twitter questions here. Maybe a little late with another question, but what figure have you been most excited to find out on the hunt? Was it a surprise or one you knew was going to be there? Well, I rarely ever know it's going to be there. I've never liked to use the Brick Seeks and the Pop Finders. I've used them occasionally. I don't really use them a whole lot, and half the time they don't work anymore. But I collect so many different lines, it's just too much work to look for every single one of those things. So I really don't use it. I just like the thrill of the hunt. I like going there and being surprised. And I guess we take it back a week ago. That Darby Allin chase. I've never found a chase in all my years of collecting. Going back to the Jakks 1 of 500 days when they had the belts, which weren't a big deal, but it would have been cool just to find, 1 of 500, I found one. I've never found a chase of any kind. So then I'm on a work business trip. I happen to go to the Target by my hotel, and there's that Darby Allin. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty exciting. I just didn't even know. I was at a loss for words. I never thought that day would come. So that was a pretty cool one out there. But I've had a ton of fun chases in the day. A lot of good ones with my dad back in the day as well. So maybe one day we'll do a video of some of the all-time great chases. A lot of starting lineup stories, a lot of superhero stories, stuff like that. So there you go. Scott McGowan, good friend of the channel, helped me with some pictures, quite a few of the Classic Superstars video. I'm pretty envious of him. He's got all the 10100s, he's got the Ric Flair employee exclusive, he's got all that kind of stuff. But he says, when are you going to commit and get the Classic Superstars 10100s to complete? Come on, Mr. Peterson. my wallet can't handle it. I should have done that like 10 years ago or so. The one out of the 1/100s I really want to get is the Ultimate Warrior one. I did get that for like $2K off of Mercari 8 months ago, a year ago, something like that. And then the seller commented back a couple days later, I decided I'm going to refund you your money. I think I can make more money off of this. So that was pretty disappointing. But I don't know. I don't know about those 1/100s. I hate spending a lot on a figure, like one figure. I feel like I just want to pay retail for everything. I know that's not realistic, especially 1/100s, but it's not fun for me to spend $100, $200 on a figure. It's just not, and I'm sure most of you guys either. I'd like to buy it for retail, so I do have a hard time pulling the trigger on those. I could see myself picking up the Sunny 1/100 one of these days. It'll be like $150, and I'll just jump on it. Outside of that Warrior, I think I'll get that one day, but I just don't know. I just don't know if I got it in me to get that 1/100 Hogan and spend like $7,000. I just don't foresee that happening. I feel like I have too much other things, kids college. I got dentist or orthodontist, I'm sure, coming sometime. I probably better spend that kind of money on that kind of stuff. That's where I sit. But man, I would love to. I'd love to count those. My old buddy Frosty, longtime friend. What crown, of course, what crown do you wear with more pride? Action figure crown or Pizza King crown? Oh, they're equal crowns. They're equal crowns, I guess. And the crown is very heavy. Let me tell you, Frosty. Sam Bro, does anybody from your day job know about your hobby channel? I've always been this way. I am who I am, and I don't ever hide it. I always hear these stories where people are hiding figures from their wife. They're hiding their collections from friends. They're hiding collections from whoever. I have never done that in anything. I wear everything on my sleeve. I am who I am. That's how I've always been. I don't care about criticism. I don't care about anything. That's who I am. So, it's not like I come up to people at work and day jobs that say, hey, hey, did you know I do this? A lot of that stuff, word of mouth travels, of course. People find my YouTube, or I tell a buddy and they tell somebody, a telephone, tell a friend, tell a wrestler, that old saying. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think most people know about it. I've never heard anybody like turn their nose at it. Most people think it's pretty cool. A lot of people always say, I always had that dream when I was 10 years old, and you actually did it. I hear that a lot, which is a nice compliment. But yeah, people know about it. Like my boss knows about it, and I don't know, everybody knows about it. So they get it, and yeah, it's no big deal. No big deal. So there you go. And then his other question, what is the overall goal in collecting right now? World record, YouTube, etc.? My goal was 10,000. I always thought 10,000 would be really cool, obviously, so we hit that. I'd love to hit 100,000. I just don't understand how that's possible. There's a few action figure ones that have 100,000. I just don't see that happening, but it's not that big a deal at the end of the day. I guess my goal in collecting is to have fun. If I'm not having fun doing something, it's time to get out. If it becomes a chore, if it becomes a job, I probably wouldn't want to do it. And we've talked, or maybe I've talked on the channel before. Let's say somebody came to me and said, Kyle, this is going to be your full-time job now, reviewing figures. You make enough money, and you're going to review figures. I don't think I could do it. I'm extremely conservative with in my life. Obviously, if I did this full-time, let's say by chance I did this full-time, well, there goes my 401k, there goes my benefits, there goes retirement. I'm just too conservative to gamble with that kind of money. I just couldn't do it, but I would just work extra hours. I'd just sleep less is what I would do, because I would love to do this full-time. How fun would that be, just to talk action figures? Probably one of my biggest regrets is I'm in the business, but not in the business. I'm in the food industry side of sales and marketing and stuff like that, but it all translates. You could be selling breakfast pizza, you could be selling a hammer, you could be selling action figures, you could be selling a clothes. A lot of that stuff all applies. That is kind of a regret of mine that I didn't jump over into that world right out of college. I should have went right from college right into the action figure game. That was my passion. But then I worry, though, like I said, if your passion becomes your source of income, then you're in trouble. Then you're probably in trouble, because if one day, and we've all had it, we've seen my videos, it's so hard to say goodbye. We've done a few of those videos where a collection just didn't seem like I wanted to do it anymore. What if that was your job? Then what? Then where do you go with your career? So it's a double-edged sword a little bit there. I guess my biggest goal for the channel would be to keep having fun, hopefully entertaining some people, hopefully having good conversation. And what would be really great would be is if this channel could make my collecting cost neutral. If I could just make enough money somehow from whatever. And if you want, hey, support the channel, go to Pro Wrestling Tees, all that kind of fun stuff. if I could support my figure collecting with my channel. If it just broke even, that would be win-win for me. That would be the greatest thing ever, is basically, in a way, roundabout way, getting my figures for free, kind of, even though I'm putting in time to do all this. It would feel like I'm getting them for free. That would be the greatest goal, I guess. But as long as I'm having fun, that's what it is. That's my goal, is to keep having fun. So there you go. And what is my white whale figure of any line? Whew, I've had a few over the years. We've tracked a lot down over the last 2 years, and really a lot of the old stuff I've pretty much worn out the hunt for. I'm not really looking for anything, but I think there's a couple of grail items that I want, and this is something I've owned 3 times in the past. I don't know why I've sold it, but if I ever buy it again, this will be for the last time. I really want that Kmart exclusive Jack's Classic Superstars ring, the one that has the Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan figures in it, if you guys remember that ring. I've had it 3 different times in my life, and I've sold it every time, so I'd really like to get that back. But that's about it. There's really not anything else. My other grail, recently I came to the terms of that, doing the video of the Ultimate Warrior Top 10. I'd like to get a black card Ultimate Warrior, mint on card or mint in box. I'd like that. That'd be a pretty cool one to have, just for sentimental reasons. That figure means so much to me, and I would love to have that in my collection. So there you go. Rad Chad, with stands, how many figures per average do you fit inside a Detolf? Would you say around 30? I'm cleaning up my display and want to have an idea how many per shelf. Well, I'll just turn around and I'll take a peek here. Let's see, 4, 8, yeah, 30 is pretty good. I bet you 30 to 33, depending on the size figures, depending how you get them, with stands, 30 to 33 is pretty good. Let's see, the Run-In Podcast. Go check out the Run-In Podcast. Good friends of the channel here. What does your wife think about your collection? Does she collect anything? We touched on that a little bit, but my wife doesn't really collect anything except credit card bills and Target bills, it seems like. You guys always probably joke at my weekly purchases. You should see hers. You know, Starbucks, that when they know you, when you walk up, you don't have to say your name or what your order is, and you go there every morning. That's trouble. So when you look at like an $8 Starbucks drink every day, and oh, by the way, the kids get some kind of marshmallow drink every day there, that's a tough pill to swallow at the end of the month when that bill comes. But my wife does love makeup. She's really toned it down the last few years, but makeup and like nail polish and stuff like that, she really does like all that kind of stuff. She has a whole wall in our bedroom. I mean, she owns the bedroom. She has everything in there. She has a whole wall of makeup collections and stuff like that she has, so, and lotions and stuff. So she loves that kind of stuff, but she doesn't have any like action figure collection or anything we would probably relate to as far as collections go. Let's see. Do you think we will see a Black Series 6-inch Zutton figure? Dan, the frickin' man. Dan, you are the man, because he understands a love for Zutton. He's got a picture of Zutton right there as his profile. If you guys go back to early 2021, it was truly Zutton mania. I was hot on the hunt for that Zutton figure. Then we had the deep plot twist where it wasn't Zutton, it was actually Zutmore. Crazy times on the channel, almost up to Rio mania time at the channel. I don't think we'll ever get a Zutton 6-inch figure, and I think it's a shame. My biggest gripe with the 6-inch Black Series line is they're really going hard on the Mandalorian figures, the Bad Batch figures, the current stuff. But man, there's so many guys we want from the past, and when you're only getting like a handful a year, I just don't know where. Zutton would be at the top of my requested list, but I just don't think they'll appease us. What's a toy line you wish you could get discontinued so you could stop buying it? That comes from the Fig Cave podcast, another good friend of the channel. It's funny, I've had a few times where I've said, you know, it'd be nice if the collection just stopped. You know, I'm trying to think of something off the head. You know, I don't know. I don't know, really. Star Wars Black Series, maybe. That might be okay, but I do enjoy getting those too. I guess if I had to drop any line from my collection, it would probably be the Black Series. I do enjoy the Black Series, but you know, G.I. Joe and wrestling is so near and dear to my heart. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'd say anything I really want to see discontinued. That's the first thing that kind of comes to my mind a little bit. So there you go. Mike D at Dinbag31. Do you have space in your house for every week's weekly purchase? Do you, or would you ever implement a bit of an off-site storage? That's a good question too. I would never buy a storage unit unless it was for like a Jeep or something like that, like rent a garage to store a Jeep in or something. I've always lived by the motto, if I can't display it or I don't have plans to display it relatively soon, I don't need it in my collection. Everybody should have rules in their collection or then it becomes a hoarding situation. I know my mother-in-law thinks I'm like a hoarder every once in a while, and I said there's a big difference between a hoarder and an action figure collector. There's a huge difference. You know, if a hoarder, it looks like there's garbage and they save everything, like newspapers and stuff like that, and it's a mess. I've got a bit of a mess going on, honestly, in my collection right now as I'm moving rooms, and it just takes time with my limited time getting to poke away a half hour here, a half hour there. So it's not as clean as I'd like, organized, but I'm in the midst of reshuffling, and I'm hoping to have that done by the end of the year. And this is my space down here, so it's not that big a deal. I don't get in anybody's way. But I feel like if I had a storage unit, then you're paying money. Let's say I'm paying $100 for that storage unit. Then that could have went to figures, and it's like you're paying to store something. What's wrong with this? That's how I view it. So if I don't have it on display, I don't need it. Long story short, that's how I keep myself sane, I guess. Who are your top 5 wrestlers of all time? Why is Warrior your favorite? That comes from Mario once again. M. Colini09. Warrior just captivated a young Kyle at an early age. I saw him, and it just changed my life forever and put me on this path in life, and not just wrestling fandom, but just the intensity. I remember how jacked up he was, and just intensity in everything he did, and his speeches, his motivational speeches. I know people hate the crazy Warrior talks and stuff where he got all the hate and all that. I take that aside. His normal motivational, he used to do like daily motivational videos on YouTube and stuff that would just get you psyched up. And back when I had a lot more time in my life and I was single and stuff, I worked out in the gym. There was my first job out of college. It was a pretty short work day, and I went to the gym 3 times a day. I trained MMA. I worked out constantly. I loved listening to heavy metal. I loved listening to the Ultimate Warrior and pumping iron and stuff. And it was just a different time in my life, but I carried that intensity throughout my life, or at least I try to, and never back down. It's just such a symbol, and it just seems weird, and everybody's got something weird out there, but just such a motivator. Ever since I was a little kid, never stopped, so kind of weird, I get it. But who are my top 5 wrestlers of all time? Obviously, Ultimate Warrior's right there. Ric Flair, Terry Funk, Legion of Doom, probably right there in the top 5. But I love tons of guys. Chris Benoit was my all-time favorite. I just absolutely loved Benoit from the ECW days on. That was my first time. Then I went back. I used to tape trade a lot in Japan in high school years. I loved Wild Pegasus. I loved Benoit. I just loved everything about him through his WWE, and I was so excited when he got the titles and everything he brought to the business, just the intensity. And just obviously we all know what happened on my birthday of all times too, is when all that news broke. So I was pretty floored by all that, because I didn't love Benoit to the Terry Funk and Ultimate Warrior like legend pedestal thing, but he was my favorite wrestler to watch during his pretty much entire run during that area. And obviously just insanity what all went down there. Stacks only for me says, do you have any Mezco figures? What are your thoughts on those figs in general? I think I have some Mezco horror figures. I think I got like the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't really buy a lot of that import stuff. It's just because the price point is higher, and you guys know I talk about it all the time. I really don't like people sitting on my money for long periods of time. So I've just never dabbled, and it's just like, how many lines can you get into? Phenomenal looking figures, the ones I see out there, but I know the collection would just cost too much money. And there's something to be said how much I love a wrestling figure or Marvel Legends. Obviously, we just had a price increase, but I just love the pricing of those back in the day. So Mezcos are pretty expensive, so I never really went down that road. Mike Cummins, another loyal viewer. Do you regret opening any figures? Is there a figure you regret selling? Congrats on 10K. No, I don't really regret opening anything that I can think of. Nothing pops out, so no. Figure I regret selling. Oh man, one day we're going to do It's So Hard to Say Goodbye on the Great Purge of, I think it was 1999. We'll do that. That was my biggest regret in my life, which really says something about my life. So there you go. SV Sammy Seagulls on Twitter. Is there a line of figures you wish you never purchased but had to out of FOMO because it was an extension of a line you had to be a completist, etc.? It's funny. A little bit of the Masters of the Universe Origins and WWE Masters of the Universe Origins figures. I felt like I kind of out of FOMO. I was all out, then I saw them, and I said, I just don't want these, but I'm just going to get them. Of course, they put Ultimate Warrior in Series 1. That's an easy way to my heart, and I ended up jumping on it pretty quick there. And actually, I fell in love with those figures. Now I'm sad that line is ending, but there's been a few FOMOs, and not big ones, nothing too expensive. Ghostbusters Plasma Series, that first set, it just seemed like I loved Ghostbusters as a kid. I had the old school ones. I'm going to get into these. These are going to be cool. And then they were pretty much hot garbage, so I sold those off. But nothing too much there. Sam Rosenthal, how often do you clean or rearrange your displays? Not that often. That's one of the biggest questions I get all the time. How dusty is your setup? And you got to clean all the time. Oh my gosh, I feel sad for you for all the cleaning you have to do. Honestly, I don't have to do a lot because I am in a basement. Basement does not get sunlight. Sunlight is a big creation of dust and stuff like that. My dogs don't shed, so that's another big thing. If you have dogs that shed, obviously you got to clean more, but old Lemmy and Domino that are down here with me, they don't shed, so I don't have that problem. I don't really have to clean a whole lot. It's pretty rare that I have to clean anything. I'm trying to think. Classic Superstars, over the last year we've done that video. That's the first time I've dusted them in about 10 years, and it seemed to be all right. They weren't inherently dusty. There was a little bit of dust. You'll always have a little bit, but then a good HVAC system helps out a ton, keeping that air going and keeping it clean and catching that kind of stuff. If you live in an older house, you got to dust and clean a lot more. My house isn't brand new, but it isn't really old either. So then I think that helps with it a lot. So I don't have to do that a lot. Rearranging, I usually go in spurts. You know, my Mattels, I think you can see right here, I think it is. There's an empty spot. I rearrange, tighten some stuff up, trying to make room. Right now, I basically have the equivalent of 4 Detolfs open for figures. So, you know, that's going to fill up in a year and a half, 2 years. So there's a little bit of rearranging that goes on with that, but not as much as you would expect, I guess. Long-winded answer again. How do you feel after Hasbro said the Sentinels have been delayed? Well, please make this question a bit skit. I want to see a grown man cry and tell his daughters go away, you're grounded for life. And that comes from the original Club Zero. So we've seen a lot of Sentinel fun on the channel. A little tongue-in-cheek there, but it is pretty disappointing they have not come through. Let's see. The Ray Z Revolution. I know you've stopped collecting certain figures. 1, what did you do with the series that you stopped buying? Sell them, hang on to them, etc. What kind of elites or ultimate figures have not been announced that you would like to see? So stuff if I don't have it on display and I'm over it, I sell it. And that's where that's so hard to say goodbye videos come in. But if I don't like it or I've lost my passion for it or love, might as well sell it. Might as well get some money out of it and fund something else I do like. So that's the way I go with that. And then what was the other question? What kind of elites or ultimate figures that I have not been announced that you would like to see? Obviously, tons of my favorites. Terry Funk, Legion of Doom. I'd love to see any and all figures from those. Matt Riddle is a current day favorite for me. I'd love to see some of that. Going to AEW side, Aleister Black, Malachi Black now. I'd love to get his figure over there. I love first time in the line stuff, and I love my classic guys that I really like. So any of those are always good for me. Daham Life, what time of the day are you hitting stores? If it's a few times a day, what times a day do you get your best results? 3 waves in 2 days is legendary. Yeah, the Marvel Legend, I found three waves in 2 days. It was crazy. But I always say this, whenever anybody asks me how you find figures, I always have the same recommendation. Everybody has a local store. For me, I'm out in the market. I'm out hitting stores for other reasons for my day job as well. So I've got a pretty good 20 stores. I know which way the wind blows for the most part. And that's what you got to do. Start with one store. Start with the store closest to your house. Hit them every single day for a couple of weeks. Maybe you go in the morning and then lunchtime and then night, and you got to find out the pattern, when that toy department works, what time they stock. Traditionally, it was always overnight, early morning is when things really hit. But to me, just generalizing for a lot of stores, it seems to me that around the lunch hour seems to be the big spot now. That seems to be the time a lot of things are stocked, at least in my area. But you got to check out your own stores. That's the best way to do it from where I sit. Robert Cox, what line, if any, did you go into thinking it wouldn't be that good that ended up being great? Or as a follow-up, what are your thoughts and impressions of the Master Universe figures, WWE figures? So he just pretty much answered it all right there. I didn't think that WWE Master Universe figures would be all that great. And those things stole my heart and never let go. And now I'm very sad to see those coming to an end. Never say never. They might be back. You never know. But it is sad to see that line end, as a big fan of that line. Jonathan Alvarez, being a diehard Warrior fan myself, tip of the hat to you, my friend. What are your top 10 attires desired made by any toy making company and why? Oh my gosh. For example, Storm Collectibles Ultimate Warrior and WrestleMania 4 attire is a dream figure for myself. Or WrestleMania 5. I mean, I don't know, top 10. You know, I've never been one that really hones in on the actual outfits wrestlers wear. I'm just not that good, or I just don't put it to memory, maybe. So I couldn't really tell you any, but I would love to see an Ultimate Edition of that Hall of Fame Warrior, where Warrior's with the slick back hair. I love that look from Warrior from the beginning. I would love to see an Ultimate version of that. but I'm a sucker. Any Ultimate Warrior you give me, sign me up all day long. I'd love to see a Dingo Warrior. I'd love to see that one of these days. Paul Gillespie, rough value on your whole collection. Crazy to think about, I'm sure. Yeah, it is a little crazy. I almost think, I mean, it's got to be worth more than my house at this point. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, housing market's been sky high. I mean, it's crazy how much, if you guys haven't checked your home value in a while, at least in my area, they've went sky high. So, but it's pretty close, I think. My collection is ridiculous. Yogi One Kenobi, how rad, bro. Congrats. Thank you. I'd like to see someone cover the Marvel WCW figures. Do you think that's a possibility? That's an absolute not a possibility, unfortunately. That's so hard to say goodbye on all those WCW Marvel figures back in the day. There's a few lines. We're going to do a top 5 video, a Kyle Peterson top 5 of his least favorite wrestling lines of all time. Here, probably before year's up. I've got some ideas for top 5s. Feel free to send me my way as well if you can think of any. But yeah, that's one we'll never cover on the channel because I just hate those figures, honestly. No Name 121, will you do any lives or Putting You Over again? Putting You Over podcast was a podcast I was on one time. I would do that show, and again, I would sure go back on that show. And will you do any live streams? Yes, I will. So I'm working on that. I'm not the most technologically advanced guy in the world, but I am working on doing some live streams, tinkering around with an old friend of the channel. We'll see what comes from this, but maybe a monthly live stream, maybe something like that. We'll do some things on the channel here eventually, so be prepared for that. We'll do that one of these days here soon. Not sure if you still read comics, but I'm just starting to get back into them. Do you have any X-Men collections you would recommend? And that comes from Elec 007 Man. I don't read comics anymore. 90s were my heyday. I would say Wolverine 1 through 100, about that time period with all the X titles, Spider-Man titles, stuff like that. That was my heyday. That's my favorite era. Age of Apocalypse is near and dear to my heart. I remember collecting all of those. The Infinity Saga stuff back then with the Infinity Gauntlet. I loved those comics. That's kind of what I steer myself to. But no, I don't really read anymore. Just no time. I have a stack of books about this high I want to get through, and I just haven't had time to read those books either. Scene Play, what pay-per-view events or notable wrestling shows have you attended? Boss Man vs. Hogan, Saturday Night's main event way back in the day, like 88, 87, whenever that was. I saw Survivor Series, was it 2019, where the NXT kind of invaded Keith Lee, had a big thing. We had the War Games match. I went to that whole weekend in Chicago. That was probably the best wrestling weekend that I can remember. My youngest daughter, my oldest daughter now, I guess, we went to that at the time. Had a lot of fun. Will you do any lives? Or yeah, I already got that one in there. Most expensive wrestler, I don't know. It's got to be one of the 10100s, I would assume, right? Music item, I can't think anything really comes to mind either. Gary Swain, would you like to see a Hulk Hogan Warrior Desert Storm 2-pack? Now that they have Slaughter, of course I would. I would love to see that 2-pack of Hogan in his like Army fatigues and Warrior. That needs to be made. That definitely needs to be made. And that was the last question. So the Q&A mailbag, about an hour on the nose. So we got through it all. I appreciate all you guys sending your questions, comments my way. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. You guys do a pretty good job at that. But if there's anything I can answer, we'll do another Q&A one of these days. Maybe we'll do it during a live stream. We'll do some of that kind of stuff. So stay tuned to the channel. Like I always say, make sure you like this video, but make sure you subscribe. Turn the notification bell on. Follow me on social media at SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson, and of course, ProWrestlingTees.com. Support the channel, pick up a t-shirt. That is truly the best way to support the channel. But there it is. But yeah, more to come on the channel, of course, as we march towards 20,000, I guess. And we'll get there. We'll get there. But I thank each one of you guys subscribing, making this channel what it is. A lot more videos to come, as every day on the channel, of course. But yeah, so for Q&A mailbag, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.